Today on the channel, we've got a focus on the telecom sector, and that on the back of Vodacom's results, which were released in South Africa this morning. Dobek Pater, who's Telecoms Analyst at Africa Analyst, joins me now at the desk to run us through some analysis. Thanks so much, Dobek, for joining us today. Well, as I say, Vodacom out with numbers today and reporting a slight rise in first half profit, helped by continued growth on the data side of things more than anything else. And once again, reflecting the kind of reliance that has come to be on the data segment of the market right now. In South Africa, are we looking at an X-growth scenario on the voice side, and how does it compare with what we're looking at on the rest of the continent?
Yeah, I think certainly need to draw a dichotomy, although data is coming into prominence, I think, across the continent, on most markets in the continent, but certainly in South Africa, which is a very mature market, a very advanced market by other sub-Saharan African standards. Data is the new revenue stream, not replacing voice anytime soon, but voice has come under pressure from a couple of factors, one of them being price decreases that we have seen in the market, although data has also come under price pressure. And as we go forward, we're looking medium to long term over the next few years, we are going to start seeing VoIP, digitized, effectively IP type of VoIP, voice application coming onto the mobile networks as well, which will mean additional revenue decreases from voice units for the mobile operators. So certainly they have to start refocusing on other revenue streams. In Africa, it's still very much voice predominantly, although some rise in data, and I think still greenfields opportunities where market saturation in most markets is not, certainly where Vodacom plays, not nearly as high as in South Africa, and you still have customers who do not have access or haven't taken up mobile communications, although arguably just about all of those are fairly low disposable income level individuals who do not spend much money on communications because they can't spend much. They just don't have that money.
Well, let's take a look then at the kind of trend this is igniting in the industry, and let's look cross-sector as well, because a lot of innovativeness are coming to the fore, where we've seen the telecom sector in collaboration with other sectors bring new offerings to the market and really enticing customers its way. And of course, standing front and center has been collaboration with the financial sector, the likes of the very successful M-Pesa over in Kenya.
Yeah, financial is probably the best example because I think it's a fairly high in demand and again underpenetrated in many African markets, a service that hasn't been widely used from a formalized perspective. And M-Pesa in Kenya and also in Tanzania, after some teething problems a couple of years back, has actually started to rise and is becoming relatively successful. But operators have to do that. They have to expand beyond just providing basic voice, basic data communications. Otherwise, they face the danger of becoming what's called a dumb pipe. They just provide the infrastructure to deliver services, deliver applications. And with voice, basic data, and infrastructure becoming commoditized, we have to really push volumes in order to generate profit. So it makes more sense to move up the value chain into delivery of applications in collaboration with others, because you can't do it yourself. You just don't have the resources, don't have the competencies mostly. So yeah, definitely move into content, financial services, as indicated, probably one of the easier applications and services to start providing. Thereafter, it's mobile TV, more into that, and in general, expansion into turning a mobile phone into a payment device rather than just a communications device.
That imperative where we've got that competitive landscape shifting hard and fast, not only amongst African contenders, but we've seen international counterparts seeing the investment merit on the African continent. Bharti Airtel, one of those players that's moved in pretty aggressively.
Bharti Airtel, one example. We've also seen quite a bit of interest and expansion from Orange or France Telecom. Mobile and fixed units into Africa, renewed interest. Bharti Airtel is the biggest acquisition that happened in the past year plus. But I think they also, the jury is still out on the success level, perhaps, of the strategy they've adopted.
Let's take a look at that strategy, because it really managed to trigger off price wars on the east coast of the continent, and at that stage many were questioning the sustainability of that business model that it was coming in with.
Not only east coast, Ghana, Nigeria are other markets where certainly there has come to that now, and Bharti follows a very different model that is adopted in India. to traditional Western or African operators. And they effectively play on very low price on tariffs, call tariffs, but they need to generate a lot of traffic, a lot of volume in order to generate revenue, requisite revenue and profit. And again, it has precipitated price wars for now. It has come to the brink of possibly unsustainability, but again, operators will now focus on trying to limit their costs as much as possible. That's where the focus lies, operational expenditure, and then try to leverage the size of the operations, so the likes of Bharti across all 16, 17 now jurisdictions in Africa, in order to be able to provide lower cost services syndicated through the different geographies where they operate. Again, they have they don't have a next day strategy. The strategy spans a period of 5 years. I think that's what they came into this market with, the focus over the medium to longer term, not to make money by tomorrow. So I think when you see reports of Airtel taking strain in some of the markets, losing subscribers, number one, it could be because they're still trying to get sort of find the footing in the market and compete more aggressively against the likes of MTN possibly, but also I think the strategy unfolding, the focusing on solidifying, building out the network, and then possibly on more service delivery across a wider spectrum.
Where you've got them looking at building up that network moving forward and low cost very much in focus for these telecom operators moving forward. Let's take a look at infrastructure sharing.
Yes.
Just how much of a trend has that become as operators realize that they've got to leverage off each other effectively?
Certainly, infrastructure sharing is the latest of flavor, and operators are looking a lot more intently at that. They still have some inhibitions. They don't all want to share, but we're also seeing governments getting involved. For instance, in Kenya, again, East Coast Africa, the government indicated that they want to build one fourth generation, what's called an LTE network for mobile operators. They're not going to allow them to build separate networks. Whether that's going to take place or not remains to be seen. It could be just a strategy on the government part to see how the operators will react in the market. But effectively, they just want to build one network, allow the operators to use it in return for payment to deliver fourth generation data services.
Dobek, just before we let you go, I mean, we're focusing on this telecoms theme throughout our programming today, and we've posed a question to our viewers out there saying, asking them what they think about smartphones bringing an end to fixed line telecommunications. Your view on that?
Still room for fixed line. I think if you look at the quality of data services, the actual connectivity on ADSL, for instance, a fixed line wireline technology, it's far superior to mobile spectrum-dependent technologies, effectively radio-dependent. We'll see what happens with LTE. We don't have it in South Africa on a commercial basis yet because spectrum hasn't been issued, allocated to operators. It will be a much improved delivery or provision of services over the technology, I think, on a data side. But I think that there's still certainly room for fixed, and we're seeing that with deployment of fiber optic cable, moving away from copper, particularly when it comes to medium-sized businesses, even small businesses, but corporates, gated communities, still room for that.